All right, everybody, welcome to the Imaging the Future of Music. I'm one of your hosts, Luis Lopez.
And I'm one of your hosts, Zac Matthews. We are so happy that you are here. You are the rain survivors. All those folks who should be out in those seats, but they didn't because it's LA and it's, there's water. So we're just really proud of you. We love that you're here, and we appreciate you taking the trouble to be here for the last of our 4 speaker series events here. This is an exciting one. We have built our way up to now meeting with our guest today. Wait, these are welcomes and introductions. Our guest today, who's going to wrap up everything that we talked about so far. It's all going to come together. All here, all at once. But before we do that, we do have a few thank yous.
Our first thank you is to our dean who proposed this idea to us. We'd like to thank Dr. Solomon Cross in the back there.
And we couldn't have done this without Zach Graff, who you all met with the iPad at the front. He's doing a lot more than just checking you in. He had a great deal to do with the setup and the preparations and making sure the catering is good. By the way, stick around, there's catering.
And of course, all the people in the office, Maria, Guadalupe. We also like to acknowledge Rochelle Allen in strategic marketing for making sure we get photographs to share with you guys at the end of this. So a round of applause for all of them, please.
And also our team at Strategic Marketing who did all of the promos that maybe got you here. So if you found out about it because you saw something on Instagram or a Facebook post or something like that, MySpace ad, that's a joke. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina.
It was on a Vine. I mean, come on, work with me here. So we appreciate all the work that it took to make this thing. This whole series was put together in a very short amount of time, and it took a lot of people, a lot of work. So we just want to really, really thank them for that, and our speakers who were here in the past. Jen's here from week 1. Say hello. Who's been here to all 4? Who put up a hand if you've been to all 4 of these? Look, we've got our real survivors. There'll be a gift for you at the. Some garlic knots for you at the catering desk. So we really appreciate you being here. What else do we need to talk about? We need to get on with this,
Should we get this party
Let's just
started?
get on with this. So a lot of you are here because you know Ari Herstand. You've read his book. You've listened to his podcast. Has anybody taken any Ari's Take courses? I'm sure he'll be giving discount codes. I'm not going to speak for discount codes, but. I just want to tell a very, very quick story. I first met Ari, I think it was 2019. I was at the ASCAP convention. Talia was there. We were at the ASCAP convention, and this guy spoke, and I'm like, okay, that shit is real. That's it. That's not the same old stuff that we keep hearing, the music business. You got to learn about contracts, and you got to learn, boring. I just want to play music, and when I heard him speak, I'm like, okay, that's cool. And he's got a book. I'm going to check out the book. The book's probably pretty good. The book was really good. And I'm like, I want to bring this book. I want to completely revamp. I was in the process of revamping our business program, our music business classes, and the way that we're teaching the entrepreneurship program kind of was being built around that same time frame. So that just slotted right in. And when I started using who's put up a hand? You've done the book. Who's done the book? A good number of you, right? It's a good book, isn't it? It works. It's effective, and it's readable and relatable, and everybody. It's the first time I've ever had a class where I taught, and students would come up to me and say, I really like this book, or I really resonated with this chapter, and so that's very telling. So I've been waiting for an opportunity to get Ari here on our campus to talk with you, and when this speaker series just landed in our laps, it was literally the first call that I made was to see if we could get Ari here. And so without any more stories or further ado, I'd like to bring out Ari Herstand. Hold on, man.
Thank you so much. It was great.
You want to hold it?
Thank you so much. That was very kind. We are here today I actually want to just first acknowledge all of you and look at all of you that made it through the rain, because that was thank you. Hi, welcome. Good to see you. Great to see you. This is great. Honestly, anytime that anyone goes anywhere in LA during the rain is just like a major win. So the fact that I was expecting literally 3 people tonight. So the fact that you guys are here, thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. So yes, give yourselves a hand. Oh my gosh, LA rain is no joke. So like Professor Matthews said, today we're talking about the new music business. So today is all going to be about MySpace, just like he referenced. No, just kidding. All right, so let's get into it. So for those of you, I didn't actually see the hands. Who has read my book? Okay. Oh, wow, a lot of you. Okay, very cool. You guys know my story. For those of you who have not, let me just give you a brief background on who I am. But before we do this, because I'm going to have a ton of slides, if you want to email pcc@aristake.com. Feel free, take your phone out now and do this now, and then you won't have to. Then you can put your phones away and you don't have to worry about it, because there's so many slides, and so you don't feel like you have to take a picture of every single slide every time. I'm just going to send you this entire presentation. So if you shoot an email, you don't have to put anything in the subject line. You don't have to put anything in the body. The robots behind the scene in my email program are going to just shoot you an auto email right back with this entire presentation if you want it. So do it now or do it at the end. No worries. Once you're done, slip the phones, and then we'll be good. Okay, so let me give you a little background on who I am. I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. I've played 1,000+ shows everywhere from living rooms to arenas. And how I got started, I actually went to school in Minnesota studying songwriting, music business. It was similar. It was a 2-year program, actually. And when I was there, this was around 2005 or so. So just to give you a glimpse of what was happening in the music industry in the year 2005, well, Napster had just died. The peer-to-peer, the legal trading site. Napster had just died. iTunes was on the rise. Facebook was just in universities at this point. MySpace was around. There was no YouTube, no Twitter, no Instagram. But what we were being taught, I was studying music business, what we were being taught was the history of the music industry. And I learned very quickly, well, what they taught us at this school was, if you want to have a career in music, you got to get a record deal. It's like, okay. So I finished school, and I got out, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to have my career in music. Where's my record deal? Because they didn't teach us at the school how to get a record deal. They just said, you need a record deal if you want to have a career in music. And I was like, sweet. Okay. So I'm sitting around literally waiting for this record deal to magically fall in my lap, because nobody knew how to get a record deal. They're just like, you need one. It's like, all right. And then this record deal was not magically appearing in my lap. So I was like, well, I could do one of 2 things. One, I could just keep waiting around for this record deal to magically appear, or I can do what I love, and that is playing music, recording music, maybe make a record or something like that. But they didn't teach me any of this stuff in school. They taught me how to negotiate a 130-page major label recording contract. And I'm like, cool, I'm ready to negotiate this contract, but I never got a contract. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to figure everything out the hard way. Fast forward 5 years, and I was selling out venues in a 5-state region around the Midwest. I was touring all over the country. I was getting songs placed on TV shows and commercials and movies. I was charting on iTunes, because that was a thing at the time. But I was doing all of this independently. No label, no manager, no booking agent. I was booking all the shows myself. I was figuring out how to do all of this on my own, because there were no guides, there were no books, there was nobody talking about how to do this around this time. So then word spread. If you have questions about the industry, people started to ask me, like, how are you doing this? How did you sell at that show last night? How did you get your song on that TV show? How are you doing this? And I got back to everybody. I would try to get back. And then after a while, word spread. If you have questions about the music industry, go ask Ari. And then I just got flooded, and I didn't have time to get back to everybody. So I launched Ari's Take. It started as a blog, and I just put up everything that I was learning on this blog. And people ask me same questions, but like, oh, you know what? I actually answered that. Go check it out on the blog. So the blog kind of took off, because at the time, this was about 10 years ago, there were no musicians talking about how they were doing it. This was like this weird confidence. Everyone was being super cagey. They were like, oh, no, this is mindful. Like, I figured it out and you go figure it out yourself or whatever. I don't believe in competition in the music industry. I believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. And I just wanted to share everything I was learning. And then the blog took off. I got asked to write for a bunch of other publications. It gave me access to just talk to people in the industry, the actual like movers and shakers in the industry, which just a normal indie musician with a blog could never get access to, but now I had the access. And I was hearing all of these stories of people making careers happen in the new music business in ways that had never been done before, and no one was talking about it. Billboard was not writing about this. Rolling Stone was not writing about this. Pitchfork was not writing about this. No one was writing about how these people, hundreds that I was talking to at least, probably thousands, that were making careers happen in this totally new way in the industry, and no one was talking about it. So people would come to me and they're like, all right, Ari, I've read your articles. How do I piece the dots together? How do I actually create a music career? How do I do this? What book should I read? I was like, well, I read all the books on the music business and no one was talking about what was happening right now, right then. So I realized I had to write the book, How to Make It in the New Music Business. And then I decided, you know what? I'm having all these amazing conversations. Let me just hit record and then put that out as a podcast. So that's what I've been up to. And that's when, yeah. Great, thank you. So let's kick into it. So what are we going to talk about tonight? 4 topics today that we're going to talk about. Number 1, old music business versus the new music business. Number 2, followers versus fans. Number 3, the almighty algorithm. And number 4, how to release music and get traction. Before we do this, I just want to know who's here. If you're a musician, can you raise your hand? Okay, a lot of musicians. Most everyone is a musician. That's awesome. Do we have people on the industry side? Anyone in the industry, like not musician, but like managers, labels, lawyers, publicists, publishers? Nope, we're all musicians. Fantastic. Okay, of the musicians, how many of you have released music so far? Put a song out into the world. Okay, some of you. Awesome. And then how many of you have put out more than 5 songs into the world? Wow. Okay. Very cool. I love it. Great. And then for those of you, raise your hand if you have not released a single song. Beautiful. Love it. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, great. And then raise your hand if you're like a session player or you don't actually want to necessarily release music, but you just want to do music for a living. You want to play with other artists, that kind of stuff. Okay, beautiful. Love it. Great. You're all in the right place. Let's get into it. If we had lawyers in the room, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. This is not for you. But no lawyers, I don't think. Okay, anyway, let's kick into it. So, old music business versus the new music business. So, let's start with the old music business. What's the old music business? This is something that I think we all can understand what this is. This is what we grew up with. This is what we think of, what our parents think of when they think of the music industry. In the old music business, it was pretty straightforward. There was one way to make it in the old music business. You got that record deal. You got a song on the radio. Maybe you got lucky, you got a few songs on the radio. You sold a bunch of records. You went on tour. That was it. That was like really straightforward. That was the old music business. Success in the old music business, very straightforward. Very easy. It was defined one way. If you sold a boatload of records, you were successful. If you did not sell a boatload of records, you were not successful. That was success in the old music business. Crazy. New music business, very, very different. The new music business started about 15 years ago, kind of right when I was just getting out of school, when everything was, all the shit was hitting the fan with Napster and iTunes and the internet. New music business. In the new music business, there is not just one way to make a music career happen. There are 100 ways to make a music career happen in the new music business. Actually, there are as many ways to make a music career happen as there are musicians. That is incredibly exciting, but also unbelievably daunting, because there is no straightforward path anymore. There's not like, oh, go get signed, get a song on the radio, go on tour, do some press, rinse and repeat. That was easy. Well, they would probably say it wasn't that easy, but It was a lot easier when you didn't have to make all these decisions and figure out what you're supposed to do. The new music business, success, it's not defined by selling a bunch of records. Who buys records anymore? I actually buy a bunch of records, but it doesn't matter. Yes, me too. No, success in the new music business is incredibly personal. Success is defined by you. No one can define success for you but you. Success for me just means doing something I love, supporting the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. That's it. Making a living, doing what I love. That's success to me. But it's going to be defined differently by everyone. If you listen, who's listened to the podcast, my podcast before? A few of you. Okay, cool. You know that the last question I ask every single guest that comes on the show, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business? Everybody has a different answer. A lot of people say, I just want to be happy. Cool. A lot of people are like, I want to chart on Billboard. I'm like, fine. That's cool. Like, whatever, you know? It's just that is going to be defined by you, and you're going to have to figure out what success means. Okay. Why music? This is the most important question that you can ask yourself, because the music business, it is the most challenging business and the most challenging industry in the world. Welcome. Shoot. Yeah, sorry if I'm breaking this news to you, but you chose a very, very challenging industry, but can be very fulfilling. And that's why we're here. That's why we're into it. But you have to love it, but not just love it, because I love Thai food. I don't want to eat Thai food for every single meal, every single day for the rest of my life, but that's what a music career is. You eat, sleep, breathe, live music, because music is not what we do, it's who we are. This is a tough path that we've chosen, but we're in this together. We're all in this together, and that's, we're gonna figure this out together. And if you have the knowledge, you're in the right place, and the tenacity, and the grit, and the talent, of course, you're gonna be just fine. And you're already checking the knowledge box right off because you're here, you're in school, this is great. Okay, Wayne Sermon of Imagine Dragons said, you don't do music unless you have to do music. I think we can relate. Okay, I'm gonna play a little, a scene from the movie Whiplash. Has anyone seen the movie Whiplash? Came out about 8 years ago, a couple of you, cool. Let me set the scene up. And this is gonna help kind of, I think we might be able to relate to this. Basically, so this scene, what's happened up to this point? This movie is about a freshman. He's a first year in school. He's at the #1 jazz school in the country in New York. He's a drummer. He's in the jazz program. And he just got into the top ensemble at this school, at the best school in the country, the best jazz school in the country. And he is now sitting down to dinner with his dad, his aunt and uncle, and some cousins. And let's just see what happens.
Jimbo, overcooked. Barely true this. He just laughed.
So how's the drumming going, Andy?
Yeah, it's going really well. I'm the new core drummer. So
Tom Brady.
Did you hear it yet?
No, what happened? Drive got named this year's MVP.
That's fantastic, Travis. And Dustin is heading up Model UN, soon to be Rhodes Scholar, and who knows what all else. Wow. And Jim, Teacher of the Year.
Well, hey,
I mean, come on, the talent at this table, that is stunning. And Andy, with your drumming.
It's going okay, Andy?
yeah, I mean it's going really, really well. Actually, I'm part of Schaefer's top jazz orchestra, which means it's the best in the country, and I'm a core member. So I'll start playing in competitions, and actually, I found out I'm the youngest person in the entire band.
Well, how do you know when's in a music competition? Isn't it subjective?
No.
Does the studio get you a job?
No, it's not an actual studio. It's just the name of the ensemble. But yeah, it's a big step forward in my career.
Well, I'm so glad you figured it out. It's a nasty business, I am sure. Oh, hey, are you going to tell them about your game this week? Huh? Living up to your title?
What I scored a 93-yard touchdown.
School record.
Is that true?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's Division 3. It's Carlton football. It's not even Division 2. It's Division 3.
Got any friends, Andy?
No.
Oh, why's that?
I don't know. I just never really saw the use.
Oh, who you can play with otherwise? Lennon and McCartney, they were school buddies, am I right?
Charlie Parker didn't know anybody until Joe Jonas threw a cymbal at his head.
So that's your idea of success, huh?
I think being the greatest musician of the 20th century is anybody's idea of success.
Dying broke and drunk and full of heroin at the age of 34 is not exactly my idea of success.
I'd rather die drunk, broke at 34 and have people at a dinner table talk about me than live to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remember who I was.
Ah, but your friends will remember you. That's the point.
None of us were friends with Charlie Parker. That's the point.
Travis and Dustin, they have plenty of friends and plenty of purpose.
I'm sure they'll make great school board presidents someday.
Oh, that's what this is all about? You think you're better than us?
Catch on quick, and Model UN?
I got a reply for you, Andrew. You think Carlton football's a joke? Come play with us.
4 words you will never hear from the NFL.
Who wants dessert?
And from Lincoln Center?
All right. Yeah. So I think we can connect a little bit because it's really hard for musicians to communicate to normal people, period. just, we are not normal people. And when normal people try to ask us questions about literally anything that we do, it's like we're on 2 different planets. We're speaking a completely different language. They don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. Why would you drive 4 hours in a car that you can't even afford gas in to play for 4 hours at a venue, make $50, and then drive all the way home and come back and lose $300 on that outing? Why would we do that? That doesn't make any sense. Makes a lot of sense to us, though. That is musician math right there. So nobody gets it. Nobody understands why we are doing what we're doing and what drives us. And that's just the thing. We are going to have to put up with that from all the normies, whether it's your family, it's your friends. You're going to get all this pressure, people telling you what you should be doing. They have no idea because they're not artists. They don't have this driving force that we have in us. We know what we're supposed to be doing. You're here. That's why we have chosen this field, this crazy industry that just is winding and weaving all over the place and just not a straightforward path and very little security because this is what we have to do. But like in the scene, he talks about greatness, and that is something that also can drive us. That, yes, to have a music career, like I talked about before, you need the grit, the tenacity, the knowledge, you need the talent, but you need to be great. And that's something that I think we're always challenging ourselves to be better and better and to become great. And greatness is this kind of marker where the music industry is so challenging that you can't really succeed in a major way if you're just mediocre, whereas pretty much any other industry in the world you can kind of succeed if you're pretty mediocre. But like with music, musicians can sniff BS a mile away. You know when you're getting up there, it's like, no, this is not, I'm not fucking with that, no. So this is something that's our benchmark. That is where we begin. You have to become great, and that is what is driving a lot of us. But like I talked about success before, if there's one thing that you take away from my talk tonight, it's this, and I'm going to say it again. I said it before. Don't let anyone define success for you. Success is extremely personal. You're going to get a lot of pressures from friends and family telling you what you should be doing. You can be respectful, especially if they're, your elders and whatnot, but you know what you got to be doing. But we have to redefine success because success, it's not, like I said, what it was in the old music business. Success is totally, extremely personal. You have to figure out what success means to you. and it should not be to become famous. I know I said success is extremely personal and you're gonna have to define it, but I'm just gonna make this one caveat. It should not be to become famous. There are a lot easier ways to become famous than becoming a musician. Go make a sex tape or something like that. That is way easier to become famous than the music industry. Fame is an occupational hazard to a music career, not the goal. But of course, there are people that rise to this level of immense success. Some of them have that occupational hazard of fame. And here are some artists that succeeded in an independent way in the new music business, not following the traditional method of signing to a major record label and growing that way. Chance the Rapper was one of the first that found immense success without a record deal. 5 billion streams. He was number 7 on Forbes 30 Under 30. He was the first artist without a record label to perform on SNL and the first artist without a record label to win the Grammy for Best New Artist. Wolfpack, the funk band that started in Michigan and now they live out here. Similarly, no manager, no label. They sold out Madison Square Garden. They performed on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Dodie, she got her start on YouTube. She has 2 million YouTube subs, 350 million streams, 2 million Spotify monthly listeners. She cracked the Billboard 200. She sells out shows all over the world. Russ, a newer rapper, 17 million Spotify monthly listeners, 5 billion streams, number 12 on the Billboard Top 200. Just reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 with his new album. And he's touring stadiums right now supporting Ed Sheeran. Also completely independent. Ingrid Michaelson, also one of the first to reach this level of men's success without a major record label. She cracked the Billboard Hot 100, sold out the Greek Theater. Oliver Anthony, love him or hate him, it doesn't matter because he made a number 1 Billboard Hot 100 hit, 100 million plus streams just recently, of course. Brent Faiyaz, R&B artist, incredible, number 20 on the Billboard Top 200, 22 million Spotify monthly listeners, also totally independent. Amanda Palmer, she was the first musician, I think the only one actually at this point, to crack over $1 million on her Kickstarter. And now she currently makes about $50,000 a month just from her patrons on Patreon. Lauv played The Tonight Show, totally independent, 5 billion streams, cracked all the Billboard charts with his hits. Bad Bunny, one of the most successful independent artists in the entire world. Claire Means, she built it up on live streaming platforms. This is Twitch, if you're not on Twitch, but she found this niche within her lane on live streaming and did this actually even before the pandemic on a bunch of live streaming platforms. She was the first musician on Periscope to build up to, she was the most successful artist on the live streaming app Periscope previously, and she'd migrated it over to Twitch and YouTube. Vo Williams, a hip-hop artist, he has over 2,000 sync placements, meaning songs on TV shows, movies, each placement ranging from $1,000 to $500,000 each. You do the math. Phoebe Bridgers, of now Boy Genius, Grammy nominations, 10 million Spotify monthly listeners, headline shows all over the world, just made the cover of Rolling Stone, no major label. Verite, similarly, successful. When NFTs were a thing a couple years ago, she had success with that as well. Lil Pump, doing something super innovative, another hip-hop artist, where he made over $500,000 from individual fan investors. His fans actually invested in one of his songs, and they now get royalties back from his music. These are all artists that made it independently, did not sign to a major label. And that's because the major label success rate is less than 5%. That means over 95% of artists that sign to major labels fail. What does failure mean if you sign a major label? You don't make enough money to recoup the costs of your advance and you get dropped before your second album. A 95% failure rate? That's crazy. What industry can survive? Other industry could survive with a 95% failure rate. But guess what? To the major labels, you're not an artist to them. You're not a person. you're a number on a spreadsheet. And if those numbers don't work out at the end of the year at the bottom of their spreadsheet, then you're cut. Who cares about you? You're just a number. You're not a person. You're not an artist. Even if you love the people at the label that you're signing with, you're not signing with people. You're signing with a corporation. Be very, very careful. If you ever get presented with a major record deal, know what you're getting into. And all of these artists that I just showed, they didn't sign, and they still haven't, with a major record label because they realized they could do this independently. Now, I'm not going to say that a record deal is never the answer. Some of them signed independent labels. Some of you in this room may sign with a major record label someday, and that's totally okay if you build up your career to the point of where you've got the clout, and you are in this place where you have the power. Because the thing is that labels don't develop artists anymore. Labels used to, in the old music business, take an artist from here, develop you, to here. Now, the labels are just signing the artists that have already developed themselves all the way up to here, and they sometimes will take you from here to here. So first off, even if you want to think about any kind of record deal, you have to develop yourself up to this point. And then when you get to that point, then you can decide if that partnership is right for you. But another reason why the major label rate, the failure rate is so high, we saw this over the last few years with TikTok. All the majors were signing every viral hit that possibly went viral, and they would jump on it. I interviewed on the New Music Business podcast this band, and if you want to check out the podcast, what happens after this band? They had their song Notion, go viral on TikTok. They got every major label courting them. They signed, and then 18 months later, they got dropped. And that has happened to the vast majority of the artists that got signed to major labels over the last 3-4 years. This band is called The Rare Occasions, if you're wondering. I interviewed also Talia Blitzer from Godbone. She's a former A&R at Capitol Records. She said, the major labels are not in the business of developing artists. When you sign a record deal, you should assume that could be the last check that you see. So just don't have any misconceptions about what a record deal actually means. You have to do the work yourself first. And when the president of Universal Republic, one of the largest record labels in the world, Avery Littman, was asked, so how do you get a record deal? He said, don't try to get signed, try to become popular first. They're not even pretending anymore. They're not even pretending that they develop artists. It is not 1995. This is not what the new music business is about. It is a completely different industry. So just know what the labels are right now. They're in our industry, absolutely. And if you're gonna sign with a record label, you just gotta think about, you know what you're getting into and what they're looking for. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the most important thing that you can do for your career, whether you're just getting started and you haven't released a song yet, or you've been in the industry for decades and you've released 10 albums. This is still the most important thing that you can do, and will be the most important thing that you can do for the rest of your career, and that is to set goals. But it's not just goals. We gotta set SMART goals. SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. These are SMART goals. Now, what does this mean? Well, a SMART goal, specific. So let me give you an example of a SMART goal. Well, let's start with a dumb goal. A dumb goal is, I want to make money with music. Okay, but how do you measure that? Of course, we all want to make money with music, but how much money? $1? $10? $1,000? $1 million? How long? Over the course of your entire life, you want to make those $10 in music? Well, cool. Or next month, next year? What does that mean? I want more fans. That's not a goal. You want fans? We all want fans. How many fans? 5 fans? 5,000 fans? 5 million fans? What does it mean? You have to set smart goals. Let me give an example of a SMART goal. I want to sell out the Echo in 6 months. Okay. Specific. What are we doing? We are selling out a music venue called the Echo. Measurable. Well, that's 350 tickets. That's what the capacity is of the Echo. 350, I can measure it. If I sell 350 tickets, I've reached my goal. If I sell 100 tickets, I have not reached the goal. We can measure it. Cool. Attainable. Yeah, you can sell 350 tickets. Absolutely, that's attainable. It's not like, climbing Mount Everest, which is definitely not attainable for me. And realistic. That's for you to decide. I don't know if that's a realistic goal for you. If you have only ever sold 23 tickets in LA, probably not a realistic goal to sell at the Echo in 6 months. If you sold 200 tickets at your last show, yeah, you could team up with a few other artists who've also sold 50, maybe this other artist sold 150. You guys team up together, you go all in, you spend the next 6 months not playing around town and just promoting this one show for this big blowout release show. Absolutely, you could do that. That's realistic. Time-bound, 6 months. That's a smart goal. That's what you want to set. And you want to set these goals every 6 months for the rest of your life. I like setting them 6 months, 1 year, and 3 year. And then every 6 months, you reevaluate. So I would encourage you this week, go home, break out. I like whiteboards. I break out a whiteboard and I draw on the whiteboard. Or maybe you got a whiteboard on campus somewhere here that you can do this on, or you can put it in a notebook. Or if you want to do it on your computer, that's fine. Print it out. Whatever your 6 month, 1 year, and 3 year SMART goals are, write them down, put them up in your space, look at them, put them in the physical world. Don't just have them live on a note on your phone or something like that. You can start there, but print it out. Make it big, make it live there, make it look at you every day when you're like, you know what, I'm gonna reach that, that's right. Because then when you set these SMART goals, you can reverse engineer. And I like starting with 3 year and working my way backwards. Because then we know what we're aiming for. If you don't know what you're aiming for, you're gonna go every which way and you're gonna start flailing. Here's the thing. The problem with most musicians right now is that because there are so many ways to make a music career happen, and somebody's like, oh, you gotta get on Twitch. You should live stream on Twitch. I heard about Claire and she live streams and makes a bunch of money. You should live stream. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try it. Why not? Sure. You try Twitch. You do it once. Nobody shows up. Sucks. Like, well, that didn't work. That doesn't work. Twitch doesn't work. Let me try something else. Oh, you got to get on TikTok. Do TikTok. That's the thing. Just like post every day for like a month. Oh, okay. So then you post every day for a month. You're like, oh, that didn't work. I got 7 views. What is this? TikTok doesn't work. Oh, well, you should just play at this bar that I know, and then you play it there. Because people tell you what you're supposed to do, what you should do, and you start listening to everybody, and you have no goals. You have no idea what you're aiming for. You just start following what people say that you should do because some reason they know better than you, even though they have no idea what your goals or desires or strengths or weaknesses are. And then you try it, you step a few steps in that direction, doesn't work, you're like, that doesn't work. So let me try this. That didn't work. This doesn't work. And now you're just spinning all over the place on things that don't work. And then you're like, I can't make music work for me. Well, it's probably because you never set goals. If you set a goal, you're going to fail 50 times on the way to reach that goal. But eventually you're going to reach that goal. And if you don't allow yourself to quit, you're definitely going to reach that goal. That's the thing. That is the only way that you're going to be successful. Set those goals. Start with 3 years because then you know what you're aiming for. You work your way backwards. That's the grand vision. If you're like, oh, in 3 years, I want to be playing 500 cap rooms. I want to be selling out 500 cap rooms in at least 15 markets around the country. Okay, how are we going to do that? What does 1 year look like? What does 6 months look like? You have to start somewhere. Whereas maybe you don't want to tour. Maybe it's like, you know what? I want to be a sync artist. I want to get songs on TV shows. Cool. So if someone is like, oh, you should tour. The only way to make money in music is you tour. That is the worst piece of advice that someone could give you if you don't want to tour, and you don't have to tour. That artist, Vo Williams, who's had over 2,000 songs sync placements on TV shows, he doesn't tour. He makes a very, very, very good living in music as an artist without touring. So anyone who's like, well, you should tour, bad advice. No, he's doing just fine because he knows what his strengths are and what he wants to be doing. So set those goals. Okay. So the 50-50 rule is something that I like to implement, and it's something that you should really think about in your career. So for those of you that are just, I guess, are we all in school right now? That's who's invited, right? We're all students? Cool. Nobody snuck in? You're not supposed to be here? Okay. Yeah, you snuck in. We got a couple of people who snuck in. Welcome. Okay, welcome. Great. So here's the thing. If you're in this 50-50 rule, I want to make a caveat now I'm speaking to students, begins once you're out of school. In school, this is a time to hone your craft, get really, really good at your craft, at your art, create all the time. Live in this space, learn, create, dive into community. This is the incubation stage that you're in right now. This is beautiful. Use it. Incubate. Get really, really good. Get really good. Write 1,000 songs. If you wrote 20 great songs, write 50 more if you're a songwriter. Keep doing that. But once you get into the real world and you're like, you know what? I'm starting my music career right now. All right, 50-50 rule begins. What is the 50-50 rule? This means that 50% of your time should be spent on your art and 50% of your time should be spent on the promotion of that art. Now, that doesn't mean daily. That doesn't mean like set an alarm at 1 p.m. and like, ding, time to switch to the business from the art. No. This is over the course of your career. So if you are making a record or something like that and you're in studio, 50%, if you're working on this record, you're in studio, you're writing for it, about 85% of your time is going to be spent on the art. Absolutely, as it should be. You should be really focused. And then maybe 15% of your time is doing a little social media, you're doing a little emailing, whatever. But then, when the record's done and you're ready to release that record, it flips. Now, 85% of your time is spent on the promotion of that art. And maybe 15% you're keeping your craft up and you're working on the music. But over the course of your career, it'll be 50-50. And that's what you want to think about, because if you're spending all of your time only on the art and only like 5% on the business for years and years, you're not going to have a business. You got to think about that. But it's not just time. It's also money. 50% of your money should be spent on the art, and 50% of your money should be spent on the promotion of that art. Now, this is a hard pill for most musicians to swallow. I know that you're going to price out, you're going to want to make an album, you're going to price it out, and you'll be like, okay, I figured it out. I've got my whole team together. I got a producer. I got a studio. I know what I'm going to do. It's going to cost me $10,000 to make an album. So then you scrounge together, you figure it out. You run a Kickstarter, you get your friends and family, you get whatever, an investor, you get something, you work your ass off at your job, and you save all this money, and you got $10,000. The album costs you $12,000 to make, and then when you're ready to release it, you have $27 in your bank account to promote that album. And you wonder why nobody hears it. It doesn't just magically happen. There are 100,000 songs released every single day to streaming services. How are you going to break through that noise? It's not just going to be because you have a great album or a great song. There's a lot of great songs that never get heard, unfortunately. You got to save some of that money for marketing. If your album is going to cost $10,000 to make, you need $10,000 to market that album. If you're going to single is going to cost $1,500 to make, then you got $1,500 that you need to reserve to market that single. Honestly, it should be way, way more. And when you get to the label level and everything like that, and you have a team working on it, you'll realize, oh, I actually need like $50,000 to market this record, $100,000 to market it, whatever. But let's be realistic first and say, because most of us just say like, oh, for some reason we can justify spending, $5,000 on making a record, but like, God forbid we spend $100 on ads or something like that. Oh no, you know, it's like, come on. All right, so let's talk about followers and fans. Followers do not equal fans. Followers are not fans. Followers want to be entertained for free. Fans support you financially. Which do you want? So let's look at some of the social platforms, the engagement rates here. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, abysmal engagement rates. Facebook and Instagram, less than 1% of your followers actually are engaging or seeing any of your stuff. TikTok, a little bit higher, but not really. So if you're only working on building a followership on your social media platforms, this is not how you're gonna build a career, because these are not your fans. They're not spending money on you. Email is a bit higher, 22%. Text message, 98%. When was the last time you didn't open a text message? You should be building your business. You rent your fans to social media platforms. You own your fans' email addresses and your phone numbers. You want to build those email and text messages. So, you know how I told you all to if you want the slideshow, to email pcc@aristake.com? You're all on my email list now. See how I did that? Yeah. So, when you're at a show, your next show, have a moment where you're like, hey guys, play a song, a new song. You're like, you like that song? Yeah, I like that song. Cool, it's not released yet. But guess what? If you want it, pull out your phones and text Ari to 55444, and you're gonna get this song texted to you right now, and then I'll let you know when I'm coming back, and I'll play the next show. Stay in touch. Most people will text it, and now you have everyone's number in the room. The biggest missed opportunities, when artists tell me, like, I just got this big opening slot for this huge artist, I'm playing in front of 3,000 people. Or the worst is when they tell me after the fact, they're like, oh, I just played in front of 3,000 people, it was the best show of my life, oh my gosh. I'm like, did you get their emails? No. Did you get their phone numbers? No. But I said follow me on Instagram. It's like, oh man, what a missed opportunity. Because on Instagram, they're not gonna see that you're shit again. You might see it once in a while, but if you did the phone number thing, then any song that you released, text them, hey, I got a new song out. Boom. Now you just got 3,000 people to listen to your song on opening day. Hey, I'm playing a show, and boom, you send them the ticket link. Now, you can see, that is how you're going to connect. You need to build up that list. The new music business is all about building your tribe of superfans. We don't have to look much further. Fans don't become superfans because they like one song or one album. It's about community. It's about culture. Raise your hand if you use Spotify. A lot of you. Raise your hand if you use Apple Music. Okay. Raise your hand if you use Tidal. A few of you. Raise your hand if you use Amazon Music. Like, oh, hey, Alexa, play this song. Cool. Raise your hand if you use Bandcamp. Few people. Okay. Very cool. Now for the Spotify, Apple Music listeners, raise your hand if you listen to playlists. Yeah. Now, your favorite playlist, I bet you could tell me the name of it, right? You'd be like, oh, I love this playlist. And you listen to that playlist. I could tell you the name of my favorite playlist. I pull it up. You got a favorite playlist, right? Uh-huh. Can you tell me every song and every artist on that playlist? You can? I can't. I love this playlist, and I listen to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is that song. Like, what's the song? I don't know, but it's on this playlist, and I love this song on this playlist. I love this playlist. This is the best playlist. We are in a playlist society right now. People don't even know the artist that they're listening to. It is devastating. But that's the thing, is just because they like this one song, we all are loving these songs. Oh, this song is so good. Who's the artist? Oh, I don't actually remember, but the song is so good. Isn't this a good song? That's the problem with what we're in. If you want to build a lifelong fan base, you need to build that community. Become fans. It's about the culture. Now, we don't have to look much further than what Taylor Swift has built over the last 10 years with her tribe of Swifties, those friendship bracelets. Love her or don't love her, it doesn't matter, because No denying that she has this tribe of super fans, and they are there for the community. It's not even just about her anymore. It's not even just about the music anymore. It is the community. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Amanda Palmer, who I discussed before, and her fans are complete opposite of the Swifties. They're these like art school weirdos, and they're amazing, and they are this tribe of super fans that are paying her over $50,000 a month on Patreon. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Ethel Cain. This is their Facebook group. There's 6,000 members in this private community group of super fans. They are cultish how much they love her. You have to define your brand. And that is creating what this community and culture is going to be. Now, what is the artist brand? Deals with aesthetic, image, vision, beliefs, and the story. It's not just about what you look like. It's not just about what you say. It's not just about the songs that you play. Yes, traditionally, historically, labels would do all this for you. Publicists would do this. Managers would help you do this. There was teams of people that would do this, and sometimes they still will kind of do this, but until you have this full team, you're expected to do all this yourself. But that's okay, because now you have the control and power. No one can shove it down your throat, which they were kind of doing before. They're like, oh, this is who you're going to be. And that's why so many artists burnt out before, because they're like, well, I don't want to be that. I'm like, yeah, but we're paying a lot of money for this, so this is who you're going to be. And I've talked to a lot of artists that had to go through that, and like, that was awful, because it is you, it's your identity. So you're going to create this yourself. Now, raise your hand again for all the musicians in the room. A lot of you, I remember. Now, keep your hand up if you're an artist. I know, right? We're like, what does that mean? I'm a little afraid. What does it mean to be an artist? Well, we're all artists with a lowercase a. That is just kind of, if you're in music, a painter, whatever, we're artists with a lowercase a. If you want to be an artist with a capital A, that is creating that brand and identity and culture and community. The artists with a capital A, they're the ones that will build that tribe and community and that following. They're the ones with the name on the marquee. They're the ones with the name on Spotify and on Apple, on Tidal, where it says, what's the artist name? That's your name or your band name. If you're in a band, you're also an artist. That's the thing. Very big difference between just a musician and an artist. I know we have some session players in the room, some side musicians. You're musicians. That's cool. We're lowercase artists. That's fine. Maybe you don't want to be a capital A artist, and that's okay too. Very big difference between musician and artist. Building that brand and identity, one glance at Ethel Cain's Instagram, you're like, holy shit, this is not for me. Or, yes, please, this is for me. You know right away, like, oh, this is, you get what it is. And if you say, like, it's not just the aesthetic, it's not just the look, it's the whole story behind what Ethel Cain is. And it's like, oh, Ethel Cain, and you can just kind of see it's this, like, trans, alt, made a concept record about religion and depression and suicide, and it's like, whoa, that's a lot. Like, I don't know if I want to deal with that. Or some people are like, yes, more. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing to me. But that's what you want. You want to divide. You're not going to appeal to everybody. There is no artist on planet Earth that appeals to everyone. If you try to appeal to everyone, you're going to appeal to no one. So really define your community. Has anyone ever heard of Ricky Montgomery? We got a half hand? Okay. So he's an artist. He blew up on TikTok about 3 years ago. Indie rocker. Kind of the boy next door, he's super funny. He sells out probably 1,500 tickets in every city that he goes to. And the fact that no one here has heard about him is awesome, because that is the new music business. He's selling 1,500 tickets every single city that he goes to, making a really good living in music, and you've never heard of him. That is beautiful. That's what we're doing. But that is what the new music industry is about. I'm going to take questions at the end. He blew up on TikTok, like I said. And The craziest thing about Ricky's story, actually, and I tell it on the New Music Business podcast if you want to listen to him tell it, but basically, so this was in 2020. He got texts from his friends. They're like, yo, I think your song is going viral on TikTok right now. And he's like, no, it's impossible. I'm not on TikTok. They're like, no, I think you're going viral on TikTok right now. He's like, I don't, how is that? I don't know. He logs on, and sure enough, his song Loverboy was going viral on TikTok, and he didn't even have a TikTok. And then he had another song go viral on TikTok, and he didn't have a TikTok. And he's like, how is this even possible? But that is the craziest thing. And these songs, he released on an album 4 years prior. And that is the crazy thing that's happening with TikTok these days. We're hearing about this. Now, some of the artists get signed and dropped and don't do much. Ricky leveraged that. He's very smart, he's very funny, and he leaned into it, and he has developed a full career on it now. So for those of you that don't listen to the podcast, if you want to listen to the podcast, I have all these episodes on TikTok, and all these artists and industry leaders and labels and marketers and bands of people who developed a career on TikTok. But let's talk about the almighty algorithm. Everyone in the industry, I know she's shaking her head, she's like, oh my God, the algorithm, it's scary. Everyone in the industry is bowing down at the altar of the almighty algorithm. There is no one more powerful in the industry than the almighty algorithm. Boy, have we come a long way. It is not about Lucian Grange, the president of Universal Music Group. It's not about him. He's nothing compared to the almighty algorithm. Don't hurt me, Lucian. The almighty algorithm, it's not even 5 years ago, everybody wanted to get on a Spotify editorial playlist. I mean, a lot of people still want to get on a Spotify editorial playlist. I understand. It's a nice check mark for you. It's a nice little win. Nothing compared to the almighty algorithm right now. Spotify, Apple, everyone is moving away from those editorial playlists. They are prioritizing algorithm. If we open our Spotify apps right now, they're going to look dramatically different. Why? Because it knows what I'm listening to, it knows what you're listening to, and it's feeding you what it thinks you want to listen to. That's not a person curating. There's not a million people curating what is going to... It's not like 15 years ago, how do we discover music? The radio. You turn on the radio, 10 stations. We got rock station, we got pop, we got hip hop, we got jazz, we got cool college indie radio station. That was it. That's how you're discovering music. Or you discovered it live, or you discovered a record store, whatever. There were very few places to discover music, but it was this mass discovery. It was just like, oh, you get in heavy rotation on the radio, boom. Now you're a star. And that's how you did it. But now, the algorithm, yes, can be daunting, as I understand. We're like exhausted and fatigued by this algorithm, but the algorithm caters to users' extremely specific taste. That can be great for us. Ethel Cain? Someone knew Ethel Cain in here, right? Raise your hand. A few of you know Ethel Cain? That's great. Yes, a few of you. She's huge, probably playing to 4,000 tickets a night. But I love it. Super fans, hardcore super fans, and she would have never broken out 15 years ago. But because the algorithm on these apps, on Spotify and TikTok, are finding this audience of people that get into that, the community finds each other. And so it's a very specific thing, and we can work with this algorithm. The algorithm now gives you personalized discovery, personalized recommendation. It's personalized fandom. We all know of Taylor Swift. We all know about the Swifties. We all know about the friendship bracelets. We know what Taylor Swift's doing. I don't care about Taylor Swift. No offense. Don't hurt me, Swifties. But that doesn't interest me. That doesn't excite me. That's fine. And she's built a wonderful, incredible career. Good for her. But what excites me more is what Ethel Cain is doing, what Amanda Palmer is doing, what Ricky Montgomery's doing. And they've found their super fans, their tribe. I love that none of you have heard of Ricky. I love that none of you have heard of Ethel Cain, because they are superstars in their lane. They have these tribe of super fans that are obsessed with them, and we've never heard of them. That is you wouldn't have experienced that 20 years ago. Don't fight the algorithm, work with it. All right. Finally, you guys still with me? Okay. We're almost finished, and then we're going to get to questions. So I'm going to go about how to release music. So I know we got a few people in here who have released music. Who is planning to release a song in the next 6 months? All right, a lot of you. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Hell yeah. Of those people that are planning to release a song in 6 months, who has written that song that you're going to release? All right. Good. Who's recorded it? And have it mastered? Okay. A couple of you. Very good. We're getting close. Very good. Yeah, nice. No, I love it. That's great. So let's talk about how to release that song in this day and age with the almighty algorithm. First off, does anybody know why Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album was 43 minutes long? That is exactly correct. Limitations of vinyl. A vinyl record, a 12-inch vinyl record, can hold about 22 minutes of music per side before the quality gets degraded. 22 minutes of music on each side of the record. Pink Floyd, in the year 1973, when they were making Dark Side of the Moon, knew the limitations of the medium that they were creating for. People say that this is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's about the 5 stages of life, and it's just a conceptual record. It has been on the Billboard 200 for decades and decades. But the only reason that this brilliant masterpiece, conceptual work of art, is exactly how long it is because they couldn't fit any more music on a vinyl record. It was not this it is high art, sure, but they were working within the limitations of the medium at the time. These days, we don't have those limitations. What is an album anymore? SZA released SOS this year, 23 songs, 68 minutes long. That doesn't fit on a vinyl record. That barely fits on a CD. Ethel Cain, who I keep talking about, Preacher's Daughter, only 13 songs, but 75 minutes of 13 songs. Drake, 21 songs, 86 minutes long. That definitely doesn't fit on a CD or a vinyl record. But it doesn't matter because these albums were released in the streaming era where you could make a 1,000-song album. It could be 100 hours long. It doesn't matter. What is an album anymore? Why are we still making albums that are like 10 songs long and about 45 minutes or whatever? You don't have to. Now, this is going to be controversial. But I don't think you should release an album unless you have a statement to make, you've released multiple singles or EPs, or your fans are demanding it. Now, let me preface this, because I know I'm going to get pushback. I'm not going to tell you how to make your art. You make your art however you want to make your art. That is, you're an artist with a capital A, you do you, make your art how you want to make your art. But you're here tonight because I believe that you want to make a living and make music a career. So if you want to do that and you want to be successful with releasing music, then let me give you some tips about how to be successful in the new music business, in the streaming era, if you want to have the best chance of having a few more people hear your song than just your friends and family. So, the way to release music these days, has anyone heard of the waterfall release method? 3, 4, not yet. You're in luck. I'm about to teach you. All right. The waterfall release method is used for the streaming era. This is what most label artists have been doing for the last 3 years or so. A lot of indie artists are catching up. What is it? So it is, you release a new single every 4 to 6 weeks. However, in advance of the album. So let me step back for a second before we get into this. Let me get off this thing here. Remember how I said don't release an album until you've released multiple singles? Whether you've built up a demand or not and you're going to release an album, whether you have 1 million fans or not, you want to, these days, preface that album with multiple singles. So if you are at that point where, you know what, you have a statement to make, you want to make a conceptual, have a conceptual record, you have a statement to make, you have fans demanding it, you're ready for an album, you want to use the waterfall release method because that helps and works to train the algorithm. So if you're planning to release an album, this is the waterfall release method for you. But by no means do you have to make an album. You can release singles. You can release 30 singles over the next 3 years, and that's totally cool. You do not have to package them in an album. If you are, this is the waterfall release method. So the band Wet Leg, how they did it, I'm going to use this as an example. They're very successful. Have you heard of Wet Leg? Hands? Few people? A few more people? Okay, they won a ton of Grammys last year. So, but that is such the beautiful thing about the new music business is like these bands are so successful and a lot of people have not heard of them. That is great and that warms my heart. So, Wet Leg, they released their first single, Shay's Lounge. That's on the left side there. And when they released their second single about a month later, it was called Wet Dream. But you see how Shay's Lounge was number 2, track 2 on that single? That's still technically a single. See, Spotify called it a single there, but there's 2 songs on there. They re-released Shay's Lounge on track 2, on single release number 2. Then, single 3 and 4, they released 2 of them at the same time. Too Late, Oh No, those are the 2 singles. But see how Wet Dream and Shay's Lounge were re-released on this single. It was still a single. Angelica. Next song. See how Shay's Lounge is still there? Wet Dream is still there. Now Too Late, Oh No. The previous singles that they released, it's right there. Your Mom. This is, what are we in this 5th release now? 5th single in advance of their album? Your Mom, Shay's Lounge, Angelica, Wet Dream, Too Late, Oh No. They're building the album. This is their waterfalling all of these songs out, building the album. And then finally, they have their self-titled debut album, Wet Leg. All right, let's look at another one. And as you see, just before we go into the next one, if you do this correctly, your stream counts and playlist inclusions will maintain if you use the same ISRC codes. We're going to get into what ISRC codes are in a second. But see on Your Mom, that single, 45 million streams, and on the album, Shay's Lounge has 45 million plays. It's not different songs. It's the same song, and yes, it's on multiple releases, but Spotify, Apple, Tidal, they will all connect all of them. All right, so that was the varying single covers waterfall release method. Now here's the one that is only the album cover. So this is by the artist Annabelle Lee. She released Alas I'm a Lady, the first single. Second single was Up, but Alas was listed right there. Third single, Patti Smith, but Up and Alas were right there as well. Saltine Cracker Girl, Los Angeles, you're building the album. Finally, Mother's Hammer is the name of the album. You don't have to do a different single cover each time. You can just do the full album cover. Now the waterfall release method, building the album. This is what Boy Genius did. They just played SNL, and they're on the cover of Rolling Stone. This just got nominated for Album of the Year this year. They released 4 songs, but you see on Apple Music here how you can't quite tell with this lighting, but some of the songs are grayed out. So those 4 songs, when they dropped this, they were grayed out, but then they would slowly make these songs available on Apple Music. Spotify doesn't allow this, but Apple Music does. And then as you see, once they came out with the album, they took down all the previous single releases. So on Spotify, that's the left side there, they had they had a bunch of singles that were released, but by the time the album came out, if you go to their discography, they had no singles listed on their discography. They took them all down because they wanted a clean discography, only 2 albums. But if you're going to take down your previous singles, be very careful. Don't ever take down from TikTok. This is getting into the weeds. If you have a TikTok strategy, if you ask TikTok to take down your song, then it's going to mess up everything within TikTok. Don't do it. So if you are doing a TikTok strategy, consider using SoundOn, which is TikTok's distributor, just to get your music on TikTok. You can use your other distributors, whatever you use, DistroKid, TuneCore, United Masters, CD Baby, whatever. There's a bunch of Muse. You can choose from a distributor to get your songs everywhere else. But to get to TikTok, SoundOn might be for you. And here's how you do it. Stream counts and playlist inclusion maintained as long as you use the same ISRC code. So after you release that first song, whatever distributor you use. This is, I think I have an example here from DistroKid, from TuneCore, from CD Baby. Once you release that single, they will all give you an ISRC code. They're going to assign it to you for free automatically. And then when you're ready to release single number 2, you log in, you go to single number 1, and you find that ISRC code. Then you put up single number 2, like it's a 2-song album, and you use that ISRC code. Why would you do the waterfall release method? Well, something new to promote every few weeks. Here's the deal. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. How many of you actually have released an album before? A few of you. Okay, you released an album. Beautiful. Tell me if this has happened to you. You put out an album. A month later, somebody's like, so what are you working on? You got any new music? Like, oh yeah, I just released an album. Last month they're like, oh yeah, no, I heard it was great. You got anything new? Like, I just released an album. Last month that I spent 3 years of my life and blood, sweat, and tears and more money than I have in my bank account into this album. I released the album. Like, I know I heard it. It was great. Like, go listen to it again. Like, no, I've already listened to it a bunch. Do you have any new music? That is the world where it's insane. It drives me insane. I know. We're like, no, just listen to the album again and again. But people, we are in a fast food nation. We are short attention spans. People move on so quickly. Whether you release a single or you release an album, it's still a release. So like, you might as well capitalize on it because people move on. If you drop an album tomorrow, what are you gonna be talking about next month? The same album? How about the month after that? The album again? How about the month after that? People are gonna be like, I know, I heard it. You have an album, I got it. But like, what's new? Whereas if you release a single, next month, you're like, guess what? I got another one. Boom. Next month, I got another one. Boom. Next month, I got another one. Boom. And then you can build the album that way if you're planning to do an album, but you keep doing it. You can engage press each time, do a full press campaign on each single, every time you have something new to talk about. You can rebrand yourself. You can do a new photo shoot, new bio. You can reinvent yourself. Every single release, videos, everything. It's a whole new campaign. And it helps train the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. I know people who, the first 3 singles, they release them independently on Spotify, no playlists, nothing. No editorial, no algorithm, no Discover Weekly, nothing. Single number 4 though, boom, included in all these playlists. And then by the time the album came out, they were now playlisting a bunch of this stuff because the algorithm was figuring it out. It needs time to figure it out. As you release the music, you build up a fan base, more people come in. Okay, so finally, I've only just scratched the surface. For those of you that are planning to release music, if you emailed pcc@aristake.com, I'm gonna also send you the guide, 26 things to do before you release a song or album. It's a checklist, so you can just go through all these things before you release an album. And finally, and then we're gonna take questions. Remember your why. Why are you in music? Why are you doing this? Yes, music can be a scary, daunting career. But if you do it right and you remember why you are doing this, it can be the most exciting, exhilarating, and fulfilling path that you could possibly choose. Remember your why. Thank you, guys. I think we have a few minutes of questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a mic here, and we'd like you to ask.
Professor Matthews has a mic.
I saw a hand up in the front first, so we'll start over here.
Hi, you did a great job. That was really cool.
Thank you. What's your name?
Henry.
Henry.
Nice to meet you. I was wondering about with phone numbers and emails.
Yes.
Do you have a burner phone or some kind of like, am I just giving my phone number out to everybody or?
Great question, great question. Okay, so there are these, there are platforms, so have you heard of MailChimp?
No.
Okay, so if you want to use an email platform, MailChimp is one that is kind of the default go-to platform for an email list server. So for emails, I use MailChimp. So right now, the way that you got an email right now in your inbox, I'm not here clearly responding to all the emails. MailChimp automatically sent it to you. There are also texting services, automatic texting services. One's called Community. There's one called Superphone. There's one called Laylo. The one that I use for an artist that I manage that uses that short number, like text 55444, is called Textiful. Textiful. And all of these services, whether it's MailChimp, well, MailChimp is actually free up until you get like 2,000 subscribers. Textiful, a lot of these other ones, Community is pretty expensive, but that's like the industry standard. That might be $100 a month. Textiful is like $20 a month or something like that. But how this works is basically it's all automatic. You log in, you set it up. So what we did for the artist, that she just did a tour. I managed this artist, and every night she played that new song, and we already pre-programmed it. She's like, all right, her new album was called Mother's Hammer. She's like, all right, everyone pull out your phone, do the thing, you like that song, text 55444, text the word mother. And so we put in the system that when somebody texts mother, they get sent this message, instantly responded to them automatically. It's right there instantly. And then we can filter them and put them in different categories. So we're like, all right, that was Denver. Now we have a Denver list. That was New York. Now we have a New York list. Now we have a Phoenix list. Now we have a San Francisco list. So when we go back, we're like, hey, SF, we're playing Brick and Mortar this Wednesday. It was great to see you last month. Like, come, here's a link to the tickets. So you want to build up these lists. Both email and texting, they can be used both for different things and can be super helpful in both ways.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Henry. Who else we got? Raise your hand if you have a question. Anyone? No questions? Okay. Oh, back there, up here.
We got one. Got a live one.
Here, okay, and then I'll get you up here. Yeah.
Well, Ari, first I want to thank you for your book, because when I released my album last year, I don't think I would have been able to do it without all the guiding that I got from your book. So it helped me from pulling out my hair. I wondered if you could, and this might be a better conversation for later, but I was wondering if you could talk about what's going on with Bandcamp and with the purchase by Songtrader, and what you think the future looks like for that platform.
All right. What's your name?
Tim.
Woo! Somebody reads Music Business Worldwide.
And can I tag onto that too? Because
what's that?
Can I tag onto that too? Because
Please.
The same thing is true. CD Baby got purchased and has made some changes with their pro publishing, and Hypnosis is annihilating, and all this. There's a lot going on, and it felt really new, and now it's falling apart. So, what the heck is going on?
Great question. Let's talk about it for a second. All right. So to catch everybody up, do you know what Bandcamp is? We got some yeses, some no's. So just real quickly-ish, okay. Bandcamp, for a while, is this beloved, independent, digital record store, essentially. Any artist can upload their songs. They can have them for sale as a download. Name your price, and a fan can download your song, your album, or stream it, or whatever. Essentially, it was a mechanism to get fans to pay you. I once had a fan pay me $200 for my 10-song album just because I had Name Your Price, and they're like, I love this album, I love your music, I love you, I want to support you, I'm going to just give you $200. If you allow fans to pay you, they will. You just got to give them mechanisms to pay you. So people love Bandcamp. I love Bandcamp. Now that you can sell merch on there, you can sell vinyl, they've expanded a little bit. A few years ago, Epic Games, they're like a video game company, they bought Bandcamp. They didn't really do much with it. They thought they were going to do like a music thing, whatever. They just sold Bandcamp to this company called Songtrader. Songtrader is a distributor. They do distribution. They also do sync licensing, micro sync licensing, whatever. It's just a company. And they made a lot of headlines because Songtrader fired half its staff, half of Bandcamp's staff, and everyone's up in arms. There's a lot of headlines and there's a lot of stuff that's happening around it. As of now, Bandcamp is still alive and well. It's doing just fine. The internal workings, yeah, people are pissed off because Songwriter bought them and fired half the staff. Not fun, not cool. But you know what? They fired a lot of the editorial staff because they had a whole blog. They were doing wonderful reviews. They were like really supporting the industry, but like the industry's changing. And so like, you know, on one hand, as much as I love Bandcamp and I love the people that work there and everything, and the ethos, it's like, okay, I kind of get it. Like they're shedding, it's just like blogs and written editorials not really moving the needle as much anymore. It's like, you know, 6-7 years ago, if you got an article written up on Consequence of Sound or Complex or Pitchfork or whatever, that guaranteed hundreds of thousands of streams literally overnight. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, you get an article in anything, let alone a Bandcamp editorial article or something, any press, it's like cool for your friends and family. It's like cool to post on Instagram or something like that, but it doesn't get you any new listeners anymore. It's not like when you would like get a Rolling Stone subscription, you read an album review in Rolling Stone like 30 years ago in the magazine, the physical, and you're like, oh man, this is a great review. I'm gonna go buy that CD or buy that record or what. It doesn't happen. Of course it doesn't happen like that anymore. So to answer your question, nobody knows what's happening with Bandcamp right now. I've actually reached out to Songtrader CEO and be like, yo, what are you doing with Bandcamp? He's a friend. He won't tell me. But Bandcamp is still doing just fine. And you asked about CD Baby and Songtrader or Songtrust. Let me just say this. A lot of companies over the last 10 years saw this wave of indie music and indie musicians. And they're like, wow, we can make a lot of money from all of these aspiring, emerging indie artists. So they created these business models where they would open the doors to anyone who released a song. Whether it was good or not didn't matter. That is the entire business model of DistroKid, and they became the largest distributor in the world. They distribute 35% of all music. All music released, DistroKid distributes. DistroKid didn't exist 10 years ago. It was the new one. But they made this thing, it was just like this new model where you just pay an annual subscription, you can release as many songs as you want. Now, CD Baby, they had a publishing division that was powered by Songtrust. Songtrust is this company that basically was doing this thing. They're a publishing company under Downtown Music Publishing. And Songtrust was like, their model was, if you're a songwriter and you want to collect your publishing royalties, we can help you do that. Pay $100, sign up. We're going to take 15% of all your songwriter money, your publishing money, but we'll take everybody. So Songtrust built up hundreds of thousands of people that were signing up, paying $100, and then CD Baby, and they struck a deal with CD Baby, and CD Baby was like, cool, we want to do that, but for our CD Baby artists. So they did this deal where like you distribute through CD Baby, you could then get CD Baby publishing, and that was powered by Songtrust. Behind the scenes though, a lot of these companies are realizing that this is not a sustainable business model because once you get hundreds of thousands, you get lots and lots of people. Well, artists are very challenging people, humans. I'm an artist. We're very emotional. And we have a lot of things that we need to get worked out. And we're very passionate people too, which means we take up a lot of customer support help. They realize they can't support all the customer support requests that are coming in. They open the floodgates, and now they have hundreds of thousands of customers, cool, that like worked out for a while and like raised their cap and made their company very valuable, but then their customer support was failing. Songtrust became a shit show over the last 2 years. I had so many people reach out to me and be like, I'm a songwriter with Songtrust. I haven't gotten a response from them in 3 months. My songs are not being registered. I'm getting songs placed on TV shows. I need to collect my publishing money. They're not doing anything for me. And I become like, because I write about these companies, I'm like their de facto customer support rep. And so like I then contacting these people. So long story short, Songtrust changed their model 3 months ago. A lot of these companies are changing their models because they're like, this doesn't work. Songtrust was like, nope, never mind. We're not allowing anybody to come and sign up for us anymore unless you got at least 1 million streams. We can't even mess with you until you get 1 million streams. That is it's just not worth it to us anymore. Because if you think about it, it's a business. And their business is, they're taking 15% of your publishing money. If you don't have any publishing money, then they're making 0 from you. And you're having to field all of your customer support requests. So that's a lot of money that they're spending on customer support reps, and they're not making any money from you. And people are freaking out because where's my $7 that you owe me? And they're like, oh my gosh, this one email that I'm responding to you just cost us more than $7, what apparently we owe you. And then the emails go on for the next 3 months. So long story short, business model just doesn't make sense anymore. A lot of these companies are reevaluating everything. CD Baby, because Songtrust stopped it, they stopped it too. CD Baby's like, we can't do your publishing anymore. Songtrust, we can't do your publishing anymore. A lot of these companies are really rethinking how this whole DIY music industry is working. Who else? We have back there, and while you're getting there, up here.
So thank you for coming here. So my question, I know that you've mentioned goals. Is there anything in addition that you can add in terms of just building that consistent work ethic?
Sure. Oh, what's your name?
Britt, yeah.
Yeah, building consistent work ethic. That's a great question. I like using I use Google Calendar, and I like having a digital calendar, and that's on my phone and on my computer, and I put to-do lists on there, and I put a calendar event, and I'll actually block out time in my day with my calendar, and I'll be like, this is what I'm doing. And here it is. And I'll also put my 6-month goals in the calendar, and I'll put them here's when they're going to achieve, so I can always reference them and be like, okay, what is the goal? And then I'll reverse engineer it, and then every month I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this on this day, and I block it out. This is what's happening. On this day, I block it out. So it's if you're playing a show at a club in 2 months or something like that, I'm going to put all my promo efforts for that club show on my calendar. Oh, I'm going out to see this show, and I'm going to, this is a promo effort. I'm going to send out emails on this one. I'm going to send text messages and DMs to my friends on this day for 3 hours. Actually plan it out, put it in your calendar, and then use that as screed. This is your job. And so if you set that time, treat it like a job. You're not going to not show up for work because you'll get fired. But you're your own boss with this. That's the hard thing is how are you going to fire yourself? Well, just treat it like a job, And so set that time I got to show up for work. Sorry, I can't go for lunch. I can't go for coffee. I can't meet up for video games, whatever. Go, to a coffee shop or whatever. Do the work and set it in your calendar. I would say that's probably a good start. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, back there.
Yeah, so I understand that there are a lot of different services that help you release music, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and ask you about every single one, but I have noticed that you haven't talked about TuneCore. I used to use DistroKid, and I actually switched over to TuneCore. So you pay $15 a year, but I like it a lot because I can actually see the money that I'm making off of streams. There's a real-time current balance and stuff, and I can withdraw money. So basically my question is, what do you know about TuneCore, and what is your preferred, if you haven't already mentioned this, what is your preferred way of releasing music?
Great question. I was about to just pull up my article, which I am not connected to the Wi-Fi yet, so I can't do this, but if you go to aristake.com or just Google distribution companies, Ari's Take, I've reviewed 17 of some of the biggest distributors out there, including TuneCore, DistroKid, 17 of them. I have a side-by-side comparison chart. So I know a lot about TuneCore. We can go as deep as you want, but I have 50 different rows on this spreadsheet of all the different things on all the distributors, comparing them. Let's talk about TuneCore for a second. So yes, TuneCore just changed their model about a year ago. They used to be, you had to pay per single release, per album. That's not, you can't do that with the waterfall release method. That is going to cost you an arm and a leg. They used to charge you $50 per album release. And an album was 2 songs or more. So if you're doing the waterfall release method, that's rent right there. That was not going to happen. So they realized like this is not sustainable because DistroKid beat everybody from 10 years ago. They're like, $20 a year, unlimited releases. No one was doing that. So they're all playing catch up now. TuneCore changed their model. TuneCore is great. I love TuneCore. You're right. The analytics in the back end, seeing all of the reports, they're some of the best in the game. I think TuneCore has some of the best reports of any of the services out there. I think they're great. Yes, you pay an annual subscription, unlimited songs. You can also do payment splitting, which is huge. DistroKid has that. Stem has that. Amuse have that. CD Baby does not have payment splitting. A lot of these services do not have payment splitting. For me, that's a deal breaker. If I owe my producer 20% of all of my royalties, I don't want to have to calculate that myself and Venmo my producer every other month or whatever, the $3.27 that I owe my producer for the streams that I made that month. In TuneCore, in DistroKid, in Amuse, in Stem, and a lot of these distributors, it's called payment splitting. All you got to do is you log in and you put in there, pay my producer, this person, 20% of all my royalties. And you don't have to worry about it. They're just like, whoop, 20% goes to you, 80% goes to you. That, for me, is a deal breaker when I'm looking at distributors. It's like, I want that and the unlimited subscription. TuneCore also has TuneCore Publishing. So like we talked about what the shit show of Song Trust and how CD Baby stopped the publishing program. Whether you use TuneCore for distribution or not, you can still use their TuneCore publishing services. Their publishing service is very good. I recommend it. You can even use DistroKid for distribution, and you could use TuneCore Publishing for to collect all of your publishing royalties if you want. So TuneCore is totally great, totally fine. Yeah. Any other questions? Right here, in the middle.
Is she on? Okay, cool. Last week she wasn't on. Hi there. My name is Talia. I am a songwriter, an artist, and a PCC music entrepreneurship alum. Nice. And my question for you has to do with something that you posted about like a month or so ago, that there was just like a deal with one of the smaller like music subscription services that is going to basically take a bigger split from artists that have a bigger
I know what you're talking about.
Listener following,
yeah. Yep.
And how eventually that going to like Spotify, Apple Music, and all of that. I just want to know a little bit more about what you know about that and what that could look like.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
As independent artists, and I'm sorry for not explaining it very
That's
well.
a great, no, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking me that. And okay, let me break down what has happened, because this is the hottest topic in the industry right now. So yes, about a month or two ago, Deezer, the streaming, I didn't ask even before, does anybody use Deezer? No one uses Deezer. Deezer is like a French streaming service. So it's like, we use Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, whatever. In France, there's 9 million Deezer users. So Deezer is like very big in Europe, very big in France. It's their Spotify. Anyway, Universal Music Group and Deezer created this deal where they changed the payment model. So how streaming has worked since the beginning of streaming, since Spotify first launched in the States. It pays out on a pro rata model. This is how all streaming works until this deal and a few other deals that I'm going to talk about in a second. But streaming works on a pro rata model. What is pro rata? What does that mean? It means that all the money that the streaming service makes, they take it all in from all their subscribers and all the advertisers, and then they pay out about 70% of all that money that comes in. They keep about 30%. They pay out to all of the streams based on stream share, based on the number of streams against every other stream on the platform. So if, you got, let's say, you got, let's say, 3% of all streams on the platform, which is not, maybe Taylor Swift gets 3% of all streams on the platform, but let's just say. And they brought in, Spotify brings in $100, you'd get $3 of that. That's how the streams would work, Break that up by millions and millions of dollars based on hundreds and billions of streams and all that stuff, and it's just a stream market share of, that's how pro rata works. Now, what SoundCloud has done, I'm going to get to the Deezer in a second and what has just happened with Spotify. What SoundCloud has been doing is called the user-centric payment model. This is what I think we should all be moving towards. This makes the most sense. Instead of paying out the money based on all of the streams that came in and your percentage of all the streams against every other stream, how the user-centric model works is if I only listen as a listener to your music this month and I pay $10 for my subscription, you as an artist get all 10 of my dollars less the streaming services commission of like 30%. That makes sense to me. Or if I listen to 5 artists, those artists should get my subscription money. But how it currently works, that's user-centric. Pro rata is I pay $10 to Spotify or to Apple, that black box, and that money gets divvied up amongst every artist, every stream on the platform, even if I don't listen to those streams. So Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny are getting a lot of my money, even though I'm not listening to them. Don't hurt me, Swifties. But what happened with Deezer and Universal is what they're calling artist-centric. This is this new model where there's a threshold. So they're not paying, how it's working on Deezer, it's this hybrid. It's not user-centric, it's not quite pro rata. They're basically weighting how, like the user's actions and the number of streams you get. So if a song surpasses a certain threshold of streams, that song starts earning double. Which on Deezer, it can hurt the indies and it can hurt the smaller artists because it's kind of like until you reach a certain threshold, you're not making as much money, and that money, the platform's still making it, and so they're just gonna give that money to the big artists. It's like reverse Robin Hood. Not really cool. It's like, oh, you little artist, oh, you're making too much on streaming. Those 12 cents that you made this month, too much money. Let me keep that for you. We're gonna give it to the big artists. That's kind of what they're doing. That's what they were doing on Deezer with Universal. Now, what's happening on Spotify, so there was a huge backlash against that when this was announced a couple months ago because reverse Robin Hood, they're like, why are you doing this? Why are you stealing from indie artists to give to the rich artists? They already have enough, like, we're not making any money on streaming, you're taking out, and they put this threshold, which was like, I don't remember, I think it was like 1,000 listeners a month or something, which doesn't sound like that much, but on Deezer, there's not that many listeners, so it's like it's big. And what we were worried about was like when it goes to a service like Spotify or Apple that have hundreds of millions of listeners, we thought the threshold was gonna be like 100,000 listeners a month or something like that, which would be like, oh, none of us are gonna get paid anymore. They're gonna take all of our money and give it to the big guys. Fortunately, Spotify just announced they are changing their model, and it's not going to be, the threshold is not going to be that high. The threshold now for Spotify moving forward, starting at the top of the year, is they're actually not going to pay for streams under 1,000 streams. So you have to get 1,000 streams per song before you start earning on that song. I think that's okay, because here's why. I still think we should move to the user-centric model, but they're not doing that yet. So this is kind of the next, this is okay. And why this is okay and what's happening here is 1,000 streams on Spotify currently earns you about $3. Yeah, I know, right? So like, it's like, yeah, $3, it's a coffee, that's nice. But any distributor, TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby, they're not gonna pay you until you reach a threshold of like $50. So you're not even getting that money, your distributor's holding on to that money. You're not even making that money yet. And so every distributor has a different threshold. They're like, someone's $25. We don't pay you until you've earned $25 or something like that. So it's not even that you're seeing that money, you're not getting that money anymore. It's like, yeah, I would love to get those $3, but they're gonna start paying you at the $1,000 mark. The reason they're doing this is there's a lot of music on Spotify and all the streaming services. Remember, 100,000 songs get released every single day. I think it's 120,000 songs get released every single day, to the streaming services. Every single stream currently earns some money. If we are all competing in the pro rata model with every stream on the platform, in a big scale, it's taking that money away from every other artist and putting it in they have to right now, or currently, they're paying out pennies, dollars, to songs by artists that are not really focusing on making a living with music, or they call them professional artists or anything like that. So it's what they're doing is like, they said that this will, on Spotify at least, this will put $40 million into the bigger pot, paying out the artists that are quote unquote professional artists that have reached that threshold of streams where it can actually be meaningful. It's a step in this direction. I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it as much as the Deezer Universal model, but I think like things are changing pretty dramatically right now. I still think we should do what SoundCloud is doing, is the user-centric model, where my $10 goes to only the artists that I listen to. But the reason they're doing a lot of this stuff is there's streaming fraud. And streaming fraud, to not get into the weeds, basically people have learned how to game the system and steal money from all of us, because all of that money either is going to come to us releasing music on the platforms, or it's going to go to these fraudsters that aren't really releasing real music. They put up whatever they put up, and then they have like bot farms streaming their songs, and that money's going to them. There was a thing that just came out that said the mafia was laundering their money through Spotify, through streaming services, and it was just like, it's like, this shit is so messed up. But there's like, literally, this is what like they've learned how to game the system so much. Not only are they doing these streaming fraud scams, but they're laundering their money through streaming. It's wild. So anyway, they're trying to fight streaming fraud, and this is a way, by putting these thresholds here, that they're saying, okay, we're trying to weed out a lot of this fraud. We're trying to catch the fraud. They're also, with this new model, they're saying if we catch a label or a distributor that's doing streaming fraud, we're going to start fining these labels and fining these distributors, because the distributors, like a TuneCore, like a DistroKid, all these ones, they're like, our model is you pay us, you can release all the songs you want. Streaming services are like, that model doesn't really work anymore, because now all this money is being taken away from these artists and going over here. And so that's kind of what's happening right now. It's happening very quickly, and every day things are happening. But yes, great question. Thanks for following.
All right, I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry, so I think we have time for one more question. If there's one to go, okay, I'm going to come over to...
Over there.
Shall I? And then we're all going to go have a snack together. What do you say?
Hi, my name is Michelle Cordova.
Hi.
I'm reading your book in class, so thank you. You're such a energetic person, so thanks for being here. So my question is about the... well, I'm going to say it wrong. Product marketing fit?
Product market fit, yeah.
Product market fit, yes.
Very good.
Yes. So I'm trying to define that for myself and the branding, and I'm realizing that who I think my fans aren't really my fans, so I'm struggling with what that means to me. So when you're dealing with an artist, how do you deal with the artist and them creating their brand and their market fit?
Woo! Oh, man, you're going to make me work. Great question. Great question. Yeah, basically, how do you find your audience? Who's your audience? And that is something that every artist struggles with. But it is the most important question that every artist needs to understand is who is your audience? So it's hard for us to objectively look at who is our audience because we like to think that our music appeals to everybody. Or artists, we are very consumed with the art and the music because that's what we do. We're artists and we're musicians and we love music and we think that music is everything, and it is to us, but it's not to fans. And so when you're thinking about who your audience is, it's not just what kind of music do they like. And we have to get out of the mindset of, oh, my fans like music that's similar to my music. Sure, that's a Venn diagram. There's gonna be some overlap of fans that listen to artists similar in sound to us. But let me give you an example. I'm gonna go way back. So when I was in college, I went to the University of Minnesota for 1 year. And I'm walking around campus, and there are these posters around campus, and of the artist Matisyahu. Do you remember this artist? He was like this Jewish reggae, Hasidic reggae artist. Yeah, okay. So I'm seeing these posters around campus promoted by Hillel. Do you know what Hillel? Hillel is like the Jewish house on campus, on these campuses, and like they're like promoting this Jewish Hasidic like reggae artist. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, okay. But I had like heard about him from like my jam band friends and like, oh, yeah, whatever. So I go to this show, and I'll never forget this. It was at this club, it was in town, and half the audience at this club show were like hippie jam band fans that were into reggae music and whatever. They're like doing the spinny stuff and the hula hoops, and they're like, I love jam. I grew up in jam. And then half the audience were these like buttoned up Jews, and just Jews that came from Hillel. And I'm both. So I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'm Jewish, and I'm also like, in a hippie and whatever. But it was so fascinating to see this. And I was like, oh, wow, like you guys are clearly not hippies, and you're not like necessarily probably into reggae, but they're there because Matisyahu was part of the community, and one of the promoters of the show targeted this community. And that community wanted to support somebody who was in their community. So whether you like the music or not, you got to think about like, what is your community that you can tap into? What makes you special and unique? Are you part of the LGBTQ community? Okay, even if they don't love all the kind of music, people like supporting what you're part of. Like, what communities are you into? What clubs can you be part of? What little weird niches are you into? Think about that, and that is a big part of it. So I would think about like writing down, like, sure, fans of us are also gonna like artists that are similar. You can write down all the similar artists. That's easy, that's a starting point. But what else makes you special and unique? What are the communities that you're part of? What is something that you can find that you can tap into? Because every artist out there has a community, and it's not just about the music. And it's hard for us, but you think about it, it's like, oh, like my fans, if you think about like, okay, my fans, these are not mine, but I'm saying in general, fans, they like organic coffee from local coffee shops. They wear Doc Martens. They shop vintage. They, listen to KCRW, and they use Spotify. And we're like, oh, I'm getting a picture here. I'm kind of understanding what this person is when you think of like what that person is, and you can start to describe people like that. When it comes to your own stuff, you just kind of, it's like, yes, you can think about your audience, but also it also might mean that you have to hone in on what your brand is, maybe. You have to think about, like, when we talked about artist branding, your aesthetic, your image, your story. Who are you? What makes you special? What makes you, like, unique? What is it about you? Outside of the music, what do you stand for? What do you stand against? Like, that's another thing. Like, a lot of artists, like Oliver Anthony that I talked about, he got this rallying cry amongst kind of the Trumper base, and it was like the conservative base, and they just, whether they liked his music or not, it didn't matter. Like, they were rallying behind him and shot his song to #1. Like, that is a community that is just like, you know, find your community, whatever that community is, find it, and then you can kind of, you know, but you kind of have to know your identity first. So you start internal, you open it up a little bit, and then find that community. Hopefully that was helpful a little bit. Cool. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Zach. Thank you.
And speaking of community, PCC community, if you can just give another really, really big hand for Ari Herstand. Thank you. I'd like to invite everybody, just give me one more minute, but invite everyone to meet us outside. We got some food, some snacks. With luck, Ari, we'll stick around and say hello to some folks and shake some hands. Again, want to thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been an incredible 4-week experience of just putting some cool stuff together, getting some great information from all of our guests. And we wouldn't do it without having something important to talk with you about, and you're here. We're sharing this information. We really appreciate it. It is the end of the semester almost, right? So how many of you are out there and in some of our performing ensembles? We have concerts going on like crazy. I'm not even going to tell you what they all are, but get to some concerts. Get out and see some music. Be part of this music scene. I do want to promote just a couple of things real quick. One is that we do have a really great music business program that's going on here. We just want to get you involved. Those of you who think you're going to be the best classical oboist in the world, you absolutely should be that, but you're going to need, especially you, are going to need some business skills. Get engaged in those classes. And in the winter session, we're doing our second semester. A lot of you have taken the 93A class. We want you to take the 93B, which is taught by our dear friend Ray Islas from the band Chicago. Ray is going to be teaching that course in the winter session. It's a fully online course because, you know, Ray's on the road a bunch, so we're gonna get it. But we want you to engage in that for the winter session. You can already sign up for that. And also watch out if you have ideas of things that you want to do here at PCC. In the next couple of weeks, our spring semester classes are now being listed. You can go online and you can see them. Engage with that schedule, and then come and talk to us. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to Professor Lopez. And we want to make sure you're in the right stuff. You're taking the right classes. I'm going to leave that at there. Just come and talk to us. I want to give an enormous shout out, especially to this guy, Luis Lopez, who's been my co-host. I can't tell you what it took us to get this thing put together. We had to get everybody under contract in like 2 days, and we made it happen, and we got some great people here, so I'm thrilled it worked out. We are going to be doing more of these. We have... This guy wrote our Strong Workforce Grant, and we got awarded a significant amount for doing some more of this. So keep your eyes open. This has proven to be a successful thing because you showed up. Keep showing up. If you see something you like, you have to show up. So it was a team effort. Lopez and Zach Graff, who's hiding over there, he's getting ready to feed you all some garlic knots. They're my favorite. I love them. I took some of the garlic stuff home. I got a huge tub of it at home because it was all the left. I did. Right? Hey, Aaron, we had some garlic bread the other night, didn't we? It was awesome, wasn't it? It came from the tray. I'm sorry. Now, I baked it. It was good, but no. So anyway, thanks again for being here, and I will look forward to seeing you out here. Have a terrific night. Good luck with the end of your semester, and see you all soon.